Welcome everyone to Coffee Break. Coffee Break is a way for me to make videos and talk about Webtoon series without me spending hours editing, writing, scripting, re-scripting, gathering screenshots, and doing a bunch of other things that I frankly don't have a lot of time to do anymore. This is just kind of my way of being able to talk long form about Webtoon series. As you might have noticed, I've been focusing on making shorts because it's a good compromise of, hey, I have something to say about a Webtoon series and I want to keep on posting. But I've been a little busy with other things, so I think, and I just kind of miss, making long form or longer form stuff on Webtoon series. I have a lot of opinions that need to be said and someone needs to hear them. So I thought this was a good compromise of more relaxed, less scripted, but able to talk about a bunch of Webtoon series that have come out over each month. As you might have noticed, I've been doing shorts talking about every Webtoon series that comes out in a specific month. I've been doing it for these past 4 months, and it comes out usually like the second Wednesday of the month. But I kind of want to talk more in depth about these series because there's a lot more I wish I could say about them that I can't fit into like a 2.5 minute short. So I think this is a good compromise, being able to talk in depth about a bunch of series and also being able to get you guys more content other than a short kind of thing. So I read all of the Webtoon series in April, so you don't have to. We're gonna start in chronological order. We're gonna start with, that's the wrong thing. We're gonna start with Sweethearts. Sweetheart is a romance story focusing on Scott Hart and Penelope. I don't know her last name. These two manage to befriend each other in some strange circumstances. Penelope is the supposed school bully, and Scott Hart is like the new kind of kid who's super cool and popular, but is just a big dork and just wants to make friends with people. From what I remember, because I still am reading this one, we'll put a little thing. We'll put a little thing for when when I continue to read a series, because most things fall into 2 categories. I'm either still reading them, I'm not reading them, or I would read them, but I have too many other series to read. I know one day, 24 Webtoon series update. I don't have that much time to read like 50 a day, guys. So we're gonna fall into yes, no, and would. So that's kind of like, yes is I'm all in for this series. Would is more, there's nothing wrong with this series, I enjoy this series, but it didn't grab me in the same way a yes would. And no, I'm just not personally a fan. And if you are a fan, go for it. I like this series though. From what I remember, it is a Latin American series that just got translated over to English now. It's also part of like Autism Awareness Month. It's just promoting an autism awareness kind of series. It's a cute series. It's fun. It's nice. There's nothing wrong with the series. It's just charming. I'm always a big fan. I'm always a sucker for like the misunderstood person who everyone thinks is a mean bully, but is actually super cute and nice and has a great personality. It's funny and it's charming. There's moments of comedy more than anything else. It's not supposed to be all that dramatic, at least so far. But it's an enjoyable read so far. I don't have a lot to say on it. It's just enjoyable, and if you want to have something that's cute and charming, hey, this is here for you. We're moving on to our next series. It's gonna be quick, very good. It's gonna be very fast. The Executioner. It's not gonna be very fast. I have a preference for action series over romance. And The Executioner is 100% action, and it is wild. The general premise of The Executioner is, this is episode 2, the general premise of The Executioner is superheroes. There are superheroes that exist in the world, and we follow mainly these two. It's mainly a confrontation about these two people. This is a superhero and a supervillain. This is the worst supervillain of all time. He's one of the most threatening ones out there, and this is a superhero, part of a superhero team. I forgot what their name is. Something about justice or reform or something. And this is the supervillain who's killed all of his entire team, and he managed to finally take him out, kind of thing. His entire team is dead. And then Superhero wants to 100% murder him, but he made his promise to his team where he wouldn't kill anyone. So he decides to, just lock him up, get him arrested so that he'll face justice by the court kind of thing. Turns out that was not the play, as our supervillain breaks out kind of the prison and is freed, and the entire prison goes on lockdown, so all of them are locked within the prison, but they've killed basically everyone in said prison, including our main character's brother. So he's asked to go in by the prison warden to basically get everyone back in their cells, and he decides, hey, I'll go in, but not as a hero. I want to go in as an executioner. I want to go in as a reform officer so he can kill everyone. And it is a wild action series. Like, it is technically a brutal action series. He straight up murders multiple people very brutally, but it never focuses on like the blood and gore. Something I really do like about this series is it's pretty straight to the point. There's no like lollygagging around, but what's this next action gonna be? He goes through these floors very quickly. I think we're on episode 5, maybe? We're on episode 5 and he's already on like the 3rd floor. And there's I think maybe 10 in total, or 8 or some short. Oh yeah, he says it all the way. 5th, right, 5. It's so far very enjoyable. It's like high action, high adrenaline pumping fun, and it's great to be able to. It's great to seeing all this just really cool action, and it's really long episodes too. It's great art. It's a really enjoyable read if you want an action series with like superheroes. Like, look how cool this art looks. It's really fun read. Go read it if you need an action series to enjoy. I am reading this one. This is on my subscription list. Love for a Walk was not on my subscription was not on my subscription list for a bit, but I've put it back on. It is an overall very cute story. There's not a lot I said about it in my short because there's not a lot to say. There's no gimmick in it, if that makes sense. It's truly just a love story between two. It's truly just a love story between these two dog owners. That's it. It's cute. It's charming. There's not a lot you can say about it, especially now since it's a very human story. It feels very realistic. It feels like these are actual people. These are actual, not just like stereotypes or cliches. They feel actually human, which is really good writing, I'll have to say. But that means I can't really go all in, like talking about, oh, what a cool twist or what a cool premise. It's just fun. It's cute, it's charming. And it focuses a lot on dogs because they're both dog owners. His name's Bob, this German Shepherd, is it? I'm not really a dog person. I like dogs, but I'm more of a cat person. But it's still very charming, very funny. It's an unlikely romance between two dog owners. It's really cute. I am reading this one. It's really cute. Go read it. If you want a romance story, it's a good romance story. Returned by the King is another reverse isekai that I am not reading. From what I remember, Returned by the King, to be fair, it has really cool art. And a really basic premise. Our main character, not awakened, has no powers, or is an F ranker. He is super weak while everyone else, he's unawakened. Hey, unawakened. While everyone else has these great powers as they're fighting against these monsters that have invaded the world. Reverse isekai. But I think everyone just dies. It's like the idea of like, the abyss, different dimensions. The abyss appear, then people begin to develop powers, and I assume they're called awakened ones or hunters. He's not awakened. Everyone dies. The world dies to osmosis, I believe. The SSS rank monster, is that kind of story. And then he dies, but he gets returned by like a deity back in time. And then it's kind of the same idea of like a Doombreaker or what's that new series? Reincarnator, I think, is the one that came out this month. But this time he gets sent back in time and he is awakened. He has the ability he has gluttony, which is another copycat power. Copycat powers, if you're unaware, are powers that enable you to either steal, copy, or mimic or mirror other people's abilities or powers, typically working in, these are good examples of more reverse isekais where they have skills and they have hunters and all that fun stuff, and they have actual abilities to take. John Doe is another good example of this, where he has the ability to actually just copy other people's powers. I will never not talk about John Doe. The point is that he has the ability to, I think, just steal other people's powers when they use it or when he beats them or something like that. I didn't read too much of it. It's, I think, in isolation, a really cool series. I think my problem with it is that it is a little bit of a basic series. There's in my mind not a whole lot that kind of separates this from other reverse isekais or anything of the sorts. The premise is, nothing new. But if you're interested in it, then you're interested in it. I think there's a lot. I think my problem is that I read too many series, so I have a lot to compare other things to, and I don't want to read like 50 series in one day. So it kind of needs something more to grasp me. But I still think it's an enjoyable read if you are reading it. But it's not what I would read, kind of thing. Moving on, Fall into Paradise. If you're unaware, I'm a Webtoon ambassador, and Webtoon ambassadors create posts for Webtoon. It's a big reason why I'm doing shorts. And recently I did one about enemies to lovers, specifically on Villain with a Crush. Great series if you haven't read that. Super funny, super charming. But it was on the premise of enemies to lovers, right? And I remember talking to PJ Scribbles about enemies to lovers, and then there was like a TikTok post or something where she found, and it's like, I want real enemies to lovers, I want actual people that hate each other, and they eventually fall in love, and they want to threaten each other, kind of thing. No, you don't. You don't want that. Fall into Paradise, first of all, completely with the name in the short, I say Fallen from Paradise. It is Fallen to Paradise. Is an actual enemies to lovers story, and it is uncomfortable as heck. Our two main characters are in an arranged marriage, and they hate each other. They absolutely hate each other, and it is real uncomfortable sometimes. I think even like in episode 2, these two characters are truly just showing their absolute despise for each other. It is not a fun read intentionally. I'm not saying that it is not a good read because they dislike each other. I think that's the point of an enemies to lovers, or especially these kinds of enemies to lovers, where it's like, hey, you wanted real enemies to lovers, right? These guys are real enemies to lovers. They'll probably fall in love with each other eventually. I'm not gonna call it uncomfortable, but it is kind of uncomfortable. They hate each other, kind of thing. It's not a fun read, but I think that's the intention of the characters, that they're not really supposed to get along. But it's also like, if that's the goal, I'm not gonna be super into it. When I say I like enemies to lovers, I like teasing. I like jokingly teasing one another. I think that's why I like what is it? I think Made for Hire was a really good enemies to lovers, because they already liked each other, but they teased each other a lot. And I think a lot of it came from playfulness. This just feels like it's coming from actual distaste. I think another one that I think walks that line is not your typical reincarnation story, where it is he dislikes her, but I think it's not supposed to be a standard enemies to lovers where they win each other over. She's just kind of trying to live life outside of him, and then they eventually fall for each other. Here, I don't know what I'm trying to get, and honestly, I don't really want to continue reading these two people just absolutely despise each other. So it's not for me, kind of thing. Moving on. What's next? Office Romance from Hell. Another one that I have not continued reading. The premise is as simple. Our main character works in corporate Korea, gets fired, and then starts to work in corporate hell, maybe? The idea is that she gets fired after studying all this time. Korea has a very bad job market kind of thing. And then the only other place she's able to get a job is like a shady listing for, what is it called? Oh, you can see that. That's unfortunate. She's able to get a listing for Hell, the Hell Inc. fall recruitment. And it turns out that it is actually just Hell. It is actually just Hell, and the reason she gets accepted into it is because she's not pure of heart, but she's not super selfish as an individual, which you know puts her in good standing with the King of Hell, which you know that'll happen to you. But it does go into just like, it's not like, oh, she works in like an office and that's it. She just straight goes to hell, and it's a romance story, I think, between her and maybe the King of Hell. I don't know how to feel about it, if I'm being honest. I don't super love any of our characters, but it is certainly what you're getting in, what you know what you're getting into when you read this series. Which is her working for the King of Hell, who is very handsome, but also very, I think tyrannical is the wrong word, but it is close enough that I don't care that it's wrong. He's mean. It's gonna be one of those like, oh, he likes to tease her a lot, and they eventually fall for each other. I assume maybe she falls in love with the other Grim Reapers. I have no idea. But it's not a series I've super grasped me. The premise is surely what you think interesting, but also I guess maybe I just don't see her points. Like, her job is to be, I think, a secretary, or like you know those courtroom stenographers? I think that's also might be her job, but I just don't see a lot of reason for her to be here, kind of thing. And maybe that subtracts from it, maybe it doesn't, maybe it's just not for me. If it's for you, go for it. It's just not for me. So moving on. Manny is, you know, going into this, I was like, man, April has so many good Webtoon series, but also so many that I just don't read because it's just not for me. Manny is as you can very clearly see here, it's a horror series. Now, a little fun note about myself, I'm not a big fan of horror. Horror, I kind of just think is not great. A lot of my problems with horror stem from blood and gore. It's not that I'm uncomfortable with blood and gore, I just don't want to see it. And a lot of horror things fall back on blood and gore. And especially, I'm gonna say, on Webtoon, and it's not a fault of Webtoon or Webtoon authors, it's just hard to make something scary with images, or images for comics. Comics, I don't know, maybe I just haven't seen a lot of good horror on Webtoon. I will say, I didn't make a coffee break about it. Last month's Memorial is, I think, the best horror webtoon on Webtoon. It's the best horror series, and you should read it if you want a horror series. It's the equivalent of like mascot horror on Webtoon, but that's besides the point. That's a different month. Manny is, I think, by the same author of Gregory Land or something like that. Something Land. It is. Oh, there's a little animation here. There's a little GIF here. I love when Webtoon authors do little GIFs for their panels. I'll say the premise is an interesting premise. Manny, he's a live-in aide for the Rodriguez family, and then he does spook stuff. I'm not sure what he's planning on doing as a murderer. He is a terrifying Ken doll looking man. So look, this panel's very funny actually. He looks like photoshopped in. I haven't read more than I think episode 1 or 2. I will say this is actually a good logo. This is a side tangent. Webtoon series do not have logos, Webtoon series have title cards, and the title cards are just fancy text most of the time. We can go back to like Fall into Paradise. We can go to like Lore Olympus is just Helvetica text, and that's it. But this is a good one because I think if you cut out the Manny part, it's a good logo, and I think it kind of establishes the point of something spooky in a household. Maybe there was a fire, maybe there was something going on. There's something spooky going on in a house. It's a good logo. Too bad I'm not all that into the series. It's just not for me. I think horror also falls into this art style of, it's not. I think, what is it? The Killer Shopping List last month kind of falls into this category of not grunge, but grunge-esque or grunge adjacent, where it just kind of, it looks dirty, it looks trying to be realistic, but also trying to be a little spooky, if that makes sense. It's not for me. And I think there's a lot of reasons I'm just not into it, kind of thing. But hey, it's a horror series if you need a horror series. So moving on to we got Potion Witch. Finally, we got a really good series. Potion Witch, I likened it to what did I like? Spy X Family, but with magic, or a fantasy Spy X Family. The idea is our character is the Witch Raven. But also our character is the potent pharmacist Vanna Spalding. She has two personalities. She has the witch and she has the pharmacist. It goes pretty in depth, and then because of some accidents, this is a police officer. She accidentally turns a police officer into a child, and they team up together. She and her little ferret accidentally turn a police officer into a child, and because it's a child, they team up together. So he goes to a school so he can go undercover and try to find this potion right here. So far, it's a good read. I'm enjoying the series. There's a lot to enjoy. It's very not cute, but it's very intriguing. There's a mystery behind it. There's more to it. There's some meat on this. It's also very charming and fun. And it does feel very Spy X Family, but with potions and witches and all that fun stuff. And I'm a big sucker for fantasy stuff, so it's great. I'm really enjoying Potion Witch so far. Which, read Potion Witch. It's a great series. Go enjoy it. Monarch is, I think one of the most basic intros or first episodes to a webtoon ever. And then one of like the coolest 5 episodes after on a webtoon. It starts off really basic, I will say. I misinterpreted some of these words as like a regression series. It's not a regression series. The idea is that this dude, he's a prince, or technically he's an ex-prince, and the idea is that he's going around from kingdom to kingdom. Specifically kingdoms that are of fantasy races, so elves, fairies, tieflings or demons or kind of things, and he's going around and he's basically maybe not saving them, but he's solving their problems, kind of thing. But he's hated by humans. I thought this would be, I'll be honest, I thought it would be kind of like a generic webtoon where we have a hero saving the day, doing things. But episode after this, like prologue kind of episode, it goes real in depth to how he got to that point, and I'm real intrigued by it. I actually kind of think I don't want to spoil how he got to that point, because I think it's a really cool couple episodes of him kind of airing out all this dirty laundry, of him kind of exposing the truth of the kingdom, and then it going all downhill. It's a great, a really intriguing, really meaty series to get your hands on, and it's high fantasy, and it is unabashedly brutal. Like, it is It is brutal. It is crazy what those fairies did in the most recent episode. You know, it's a great fantasy series, action, really cool mystery, really cool, all this fun stuff. I think you should read. It's a great series. I'm highly enjoying it. Moving on. Oh, forgot this was after. The Supremely Talented Player is another reverse isekai. Where there's hunters, there's awakened ones, there's towers, there's people that are fighting against monsters, and we follow there's seasons, season 5 final boss. What is this, Fortnite? There's all this stuff, and we follow a character who's incredibly powerful. I don't remember his name, but he's somewhere down here of like, he's this super strong, he's the hero king, you know, he's so powerful, he's so cool, but he's also very mean, he's a very rude dude. Like, they immediately go into a thing of like, what is it? Like a press conference. And he's like, why do you do this? Please say something nice, we're counting on you. And he's like, ha ha ha, it's for money. I don't care about people. I would have quit this a long time ago, T. Which makes it seem like, oh, this is like a flash forward kind of thing, and it's gonna be like a really cool, like, there's gonna be all this stuff about, you know, all these like towers. Every episode actually ends with like these analysis reports on towers and these seasons and the objectives and all that stuff. But after that, you here's kind of like the here's kind of the what is it, like the mandatory explain that the world got invaded by monsters and then there's towers and there's a system kind of thing. I think the best way I can describe this series is Hardcore Leveling Warrior Earth game, but not in a good way. And if you don't know, Hardcore Leveling Warrior is one of my absolute personal favorite series, and it recently got a new season after we thought it ended. It ended back in 2020 something, and it ended, but there was hints that there was a third season, but the entire series just ended and it all went on Daily Pass. But then Hardcore Leveling Warrior got a new season as a new series called Earth Game, and it is fantastic. It is great. If you've read Hardcore Leveling Warrior, like the first series, go read Earth Game. It is great. But the problem is, it is a series that is required that you read another series that is already on Daily Pass, which is fine for me, who's someone who's enjoyed a lot of Hardcore Leveling Warrior and got really in depth about the story. But for other people who, you know, might have forgotten or might have never got the chance to read it, you have a new series that you kind of are starting on. You're starting on page 50 when you don't have the first 50 episodes or the first 50 pages. So there's so much that you don't know. And that's what this feels like. It feels like we're starting in the middle of a story without much before or after. It could be that it's like what is it? It's like the genius. What is it? The genius awakened is now the cleaning life of a once genius hunter, or something like that, where it's like he starts off super strong and then he dies or something happens and he loses all of his powers and he has to climb his way back up. This idea of riches to rags, or a fall from grace, something I've talked about before, where it's more of a character's arc of humility, of them learning how to be better people. But I've read the first couple episodes of the series. My guy is just kind of a mean dude who is continuously mean and continues to profit. And you know what? I think sometimes that's an okay. It's okay to have like a big personality, and it's okay to be this kind of mean person. But I just don't think there's a lot I'm grasping about it so far. It just feels so reverse isekai. That's it. Like, you're allowed to have a reverse isekai. I don't think the problem is it being a reverse isekai. I think the problem is we start in a position where it doesn't feel like the beginning, right? It doesn't feel like a start to a story or something like that. It just kind of feels like we're thrown straight into the action, and we don't know who these characters are. We don't know how they got there. We might get a backstory or a flashback or something, but it doesn't feel like a grasp or anything. There's nothing that makes me super interested, because it feels like I'm already missing out on backstory kind of thing. But that, you know what? That could just be me. That could just be me misinterpreting what is a really good series. But I just don't see the intention, because in my mind, if you want a reverse isekai, there's so many good reverse isekais, especially this month. In the past month, there have been so many good reverse isekais that have what I call a butts, or this idea of a twist, or something that makes it more than its trope or more than its cliche. And I feel like I'm not getting that with this series. It feels like the sum of its parts, and that's it. Which there's nothing wrong with. Hey, sometimes you just gotta have a sum of your parts. It's gonna be a pretty simple story. I do laugh that he shills his merch here though. But hey, sometimes you want something new because you've read so many different reverse isekais. Which is why I think it didn't stand out to me as a series I would continue to read. Moving on. Mage. Oh, when I first got the notification that this series came out, it was when I was in a call with PJ Scribbles, and I clicked on it to see the full image, and I was like, oh no, they found out a way to make a D&D mimic hot, or just sexualize a D&D mimic. It is about, the D&D chess mimics. This is, we'll see if we can get a full body image of her. She is a little sexualized, but it's fine. I think it's this is gonna throw some hot water. I think it's a cool premise. She might be sexualized, but hey, it's an interesting premise. I'm personally not reading it, but it is something, given a circumstance of I'm not reading 20 series a day, I would throw it onto the pile as like a lighthearted thing. It's not something that's super, complex. It's not something super, it's just not, it's not that. But it is fun. I'll say it's fun. I think that's the intention of what they want. It's like a fun D&D mimic version of D&D mimic version of like Little Mermaid, where she has all this stuff from the people, and she wants to be where the people are. I made that joke in my short. But she just wants to be where the people are. She just wants to be a human, or she wants to be with humans. And it's, I think, the idea of she's over time learning and she's getting, what is it, close with this mage human, and they're building a bond kind of thing. And I think the mage I think the human mage is cursed with something, and they're going on these adventures to try to find out how they can stop being cursed kind of thing. It's a cool premise. It's a fun series. I'm not denying it's a fun series. And if you want a fun series, it's here to be a fun series. Go for it. Enjoy it. It's gonna be good if you want something like this. But I think I wouldn't enjoy it as much because I'm just reading so much, and I feel like I try to speed through it to get to the other series that I'm really hyped for. But I think it's a fun series if you want something a little more goofy and a little more lighthearted, and if you're a big D&D fan, and you'll get a lot of the references. So next episode, the genius assassin who takes it all. Isekai. This is an isekai. But it's a cool isekai. I'm kind of into this one. The idea is, it's an isekai into the world of an author wrote. It's a story about two people. It's about this guy and an assassin dude. And it's like a major fight. The major story is like the fight between them, where the story presents the guy in white as the hero, and then the assassin guy as the villain, and then the story ends with him stopping his quote unquote evil ways and the assassin dying right in front of everyone, and like they all cheer him on. Woo! He loses the fight, and then but turns out he's the villain kind of thing. And it like this game theory, the hero was the villain all along because he summons, what is this dude? He summons, this dude, I forgot what his name is. The Demon Lord as Descendant, and like that was his entire thing. He's trying to purge humanity, and this story, everyone hates. Everyone hates this story, where it's like, oh, what you purposely tried to make a twist ending, and everyone hates this story. Like all of his fans are like, yo, I don't care if you saw this as like basing on a real experience. What kind of terrible ending is this? You should be banned from writing web novels forever. And they go into like just hate comments about like his twist ending. And then, you know, he eventually gets reincarnated as the supposed villain, that assassin guy who's trying to prevent the end of the world. I'm enjoying it a lot so far. I think it's just because it has that meaningful twist that I was looking for in Supremely Talented Player. It just has something more to it than that. It does feel very similar to Omniscient Reader, but in good ways. And also it feels like a very intentional story about stories, but not as blatantly as Omniscient Reader. So if you're looking for another isekai, another fun one, fun action, fun fantasy action, this is here for you, and it's quite enjoyable read so far. So you know, it's here. Go read it. It's gonna be good. Moving on, we have Divine Delivery. Now this is what I was looking for with Supremely Talented Player. This is another reverse isekai, whoop-de-doo, but we follow a delivery driver. That's it. That's truly the big twist of the story, is that we follow a delivery driver in a reverse isekai world. At first, he's just a normal delivery driver, but then he gets contracted by the gods to be a delivery driver. And so he just does deliveries for who is this? Aphrodite? Who is this? It's like the Greek pantheon is here. It's an enjoyable read. There's not, I guess, a lot I could say about it, because that's the premise. The premise is him being a delivery driver in a reverse isekai world and delivery drivering for gods. It's the twist that I was looking for in the Supremely Talented Player, but if you want a more action-based, this is just food. But if you want a more action-based reverse isekai, this isn't gonna be it for you. There is some elements of fighting and action, but it's more just about him being a delivery driver for the gods. And I can really respect that. It's just fun. It's just a fun reverse isekai, and it's a fun twist on the reverse isekai trope that I'm sure you'd enjoy if you gave it a shot. This is Persephone, which I think is very funny. Moving on. Wanna Be Friends is a little basic, but I'm enjoying it. I'm reading it. It follows a similar premise to Sweetheart, where our female lead, instead of male lead, just wants to make friends. Just wants to make friends and decides to try to be friends with, I think, the most popular guy in school. And that's kind of the entire premise of her just trying to be friends, her, you know, being embarrassed, but her, you know, finding friends in unlikely places. Something I've noticed a lot about this one and Sweetheart is it does a lot with sign language. Our main character is partially deaf or completely deaf, I believe. So he talks through sign language and like lip reading and things like that. So there's some cool representation there as well. There's not a lot I could say about it. It's just a slice of life story about these two people becoming friends and then eventually falling in love, I have to assume. It's cute, it's charming, it's there, it's fun. Nothing much to it. So moving on. Oh, Children of Orbit. Children of Orbit's weird. It is a love triangle between our male lead and our female lead in this girl, but our male lead and our female lead are siblings. At least that's what I get from it. the idea is kind of simple, where our two main characters are siblings. But the brother has an interesting inferiority complex, because I think the sister got kidnapped by a random person who it was like this entire episode of like, she got kidnapped by someone, and she was brought into this family again. Oh yeah, let's talk about my family. Super lucky. Does it talk about it here? Yeah. Just truly got kidnapped randomly in a blink of an eye. Got kidnapped for, I think, years. For years she got kidnapped. For 4 years and 11, almost 5 years, she got kidnapped. And it goes into this story of like, he's weirdly jealous of her. It's a messy story, and it's a little uncomfortable, I'll be honest. And not in like here's like the enemies to lovers uncomfortable. It's just kind of tense, but weirdly uncomfortably tense. It's a story that I won't read, but I will, I think, check in on every couple months, or every couple months. I'll maybe look at the most recent episode and see how it's going so far. It's kind of a weird story. Maybe I'm missing something from it. Maybe it's not a love triangle at all. I hope it's not a love triangle, but based on, how it's written and how it's presented, it seems like a love triangle. So it's a little weird. But hey, it might be the weird you're into. I don't know. It's not for me. Moving on. We have My Villainous Family Won't Let Me Be. I've realized a lot of things are very cliched. A lot of things are very similar to each other. This is another story where our female lead gets reincarnated or isekai'd into the body of the villain of a storybook, and she's trying to change her future or whatever, what is written about her. It's nothing new. It's nothing that hasn't been done before. It's still kind of fun, because I think the entire premise is an interesting, like, trying to twist or avoid or change someone's fate. If you're into that, then you're into it. There's been so many I've been reincarnated as the antagonist storylines, and this one just doesn't seem all that memorable. It feels a little basic as a story. There is like magic in the world, but other than that, I can't really think of anything that makes it stand out comparatively. I am reading it, but I think it's more, I know where these kind of stories can go, so I'm interested and excited to see if it will go in that direction. I'm reading it with the caution of it might not go down that way, but if it does, it'll be an enjoyable read. But if it isn't, it's just gonna be a little basic, but fine. So that's there for you if you want that. Moving on, My Naughty Deity, I was really into, and then things happened. The idea is pretty interesting, actually. So our character is this girl, but an adult, but I'm just gonna keep it here. It's this girl, and she's an orphan. She hasn't had a lot going or given to her entire life. That sure is just a white screen. But her entire life, she's kind of seen that people just want. So she decided to not. She's decided to just be happy with what she's given to her. So either be a book that no one wants, or going to a school that's safe, or all that fun stuff. She's just decided to be content with what she has. The less you want, the happier you can be, right? So she's decided that, like, she's not gonna do much. She's gonna not coast, but she will not. She doesn't want a lot. Which plays an issue as you know, she can't be too greedy. That's the idea, that she can't be greedy. And then she goes to a school. She becomes, I think, a big YouTuber, but then her boyfriend steals the account away. And then the idea is that we meet this guy. Oh, we've skipped past him. This guy is Dionysus. There's a lot of series that are using Greek mythology. This is Dionysus, or like the new version of Dionysus. And he takes an interest in her because she does not have any desires, because that's his big thing. She has no desires, and he wants to use her lack of desires to make good wine. I thought it was a really cool premise. At the beginning, he gives her a gift to see people's affection levels, right? To see people's affection levels about her. You know, this is how they feel, and at first she can manipulate it so she can make people just fall in love with her 100%. If you move on to like the next kind of couple episodes, she's a teacher, and the teacher kind of feels very, the teacher arc feels very, what is it? Good Day to Be a Dog-esque, where she finds a person who's like super already in love with her, you know, just absolutely in love with her. And it's kind of like the gray-haired, I think he's a math teacher, the gray-haired, math teacher who's very shy and reserved kind of thing, and doesn't want to let his emotions out. It's a very cute story, until later, where how do I describe this easily? The god Dionysus, using his powers of getting people to want pleasure, kind of steals a kiss from our main character, and not in a way that feels consensual. And I don't love that, and I haven't really read more than that. I kind of stopped after that episode. Here he kind of undresses. He kind of like it's weird. It's real weird. And a lot of people, this one, he tried to god roofie her. It's a very funny way of saying that. But I think it goes into like, there's another comment here. I don't want to be like, how dare you? But there is a comment. I'm going to ignore our red flags. There's a lot of like, if you're hot, you're cool. It doesn't matter if you did that kind of thing. I was kind of uncomfortable with it, so I stopped reading it. It could just been a one-time thing, but it's just not something I would like to continue reading kind of thing. But hey, you know, everything else around it seemed pretty good. It seemed all right, and that was actually something I was really interested in reading. That kind of just threw me for a loop, and I don't think I wanted to continue reading after it though. But hey, it's there, and a lot of it was already pretty good to begin with. So moving on, the gardener in a hunter world is another reverse isekai. It's another one, but this time our guy isn't a hunter, or isn't like a combat hunter. He's a worker, a worker hunter, where he, honestly, it doesn't seem like he got much to begin with, but then he became a potion seller, and then he's become like a gardener in the storybook world. That's it, really. He's able to like go into this garden world through a book, and he's able to take materials and then use it to make really powerful potions that he just kind of sells. He's just kind of like he feels just kind of like nerd emoji kind of thing, where he's just kind of very humble, where he doesn't really seem to understand why or how he's all that popular or all that good. He's just like, oh yeah, that, I saw you do that, like, oh, that was great. And he's like, oh, look at this, it's just this little thing. It's a very, I like the premise, I like it a lot. It's, I think, The Strongest Florist meets a reverse isekai. There's a lot of focus on alchemy, on working, on gathering materials. I'm kind of into that, honestly. It's pretty fun for me, especially because I read just so many action reverse isekais, and this one is just like a nice, like, a worker reverse isekai, or someone who's just doing the work kind of thing. and not focusing all that much on fighting, but focusing on supporting. There's a lot of series like that. Whatever the cleaning reverse isekai one was, Weapon Creator is another one of those. Like series I like that are not focusing our main character on being super strong, but instead having him or giving him special abilities that make him stand out, but not in combat ways, I think is a really cool twist on this reverse isekai. And I like potions. I'll be honest. I'm a sucker for potions. So I think it's a cool read if you want a different reverse isekai. Wrong Quest. There's not a lot to say about Wrong Quest, mainly because there's not a lot to read in Wrong Quest. It's like 5 panels in each thing. It's just D&D games. I wouldn't be surprised if these are D&D these are moments that the author was playing D&D with that they just kind of brought to life, because they're just like silly D&D moments. Like there's not much else to the series other than silly little D&D moments. And you know what? That's fine. There's nothing that needs to be, it doesn't need to be this like big elaborate story, but it can just be a simple one about like D&D people, you know, just playing rock, paper, scissors with skeleton hands, or this one where they really want to get crushed by the I got too excited. They really want to get crushed by, what is it, a snake girl. You know, it's fun, it's goofy, and it's an enjoyable read. And also, the art is wildly good. Like, this art is pretty good. All right, yeah. Head pats. Time for demonic forehead kisses. It's fun. It's cute. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just an enjoyable read. It's not going to be a long read every time you read it, but it's going to be a good read. And I think that's sometimes all you need. What is it? Quality over quantity. So, you know, have fun with it. Can't Get Enough of You is a weird story that I couldn't get into in the shorts. It's a confusing premise of our male and female lead knew each other in childhood, and then our female lead's parents got into a car accident that caused the male lead's parents to die. And we start with like the funeral of the male lead's parents as he becomes, you know, the president or whatever nonsense he becomes for, oh yeah, K Electronics. And then we skip years later into them meeting as adults when she works for his company, but also doesn't know it's him, but they also hung out in China. It's a lot. There's a lot in this story that I just couldn't really get into because there's so much complexity, but it's also just kind of, you know, just kind of there. This is a story that I'm not reading, but I think it's something that if I was bored one day and I was out and I couldn't do anything, I'd probably just catch up quickly to this story and see what happened the past couple months and then just forget about it. That's kind of the idea of this series in my mind. It's going to be a corporate romance with the boss and the employee. That's kind of, you know, it's a little bit, it's a little, ethically questionable or HR questionable kind of thing. But that's kind of the idea. But it's there. I'm sure there's an audience for it. I'm not sure I'm the audience for it. But it's there, and you can have fun with it. KO is something that is not on Webtoon a lot. I talked about this recently with someone. When dealing with romance stories, this is a romance story. When dealing with a lot of romance stuff, you don't see a lot of male main characters. You see a lot of female main characters or co-main characters, where both the female and the male are the main character, but you don't see a primarily main male character. I think, honestly, Sweetheart is kind of primarily male, but there's just so many other females that kind of like share that main character role that it's hard to be like, he's the main character, it's him. But this is a primarily male romance story which is shocking, right? I can't, maybe I'm alone, but can you think of a Webtoon original series that has a male romance character? Can you think of a Webtoon original series that is a romance story that has a primarily male main character? Because honestly, I cannot. I truly cannot. And maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just going crazy. Maybe the 200 Webtoon series I have in my brain are clouding my judgment. But most of them focus on a female lead. And you know what? That's fine. You know, there's an audience for that. But you know, I think I noticed it when I noticed how, for lack of a better term, how many abs I was seeing every week. I was like, these are a lot of abs for me to be seeing as a straight white man. But it is certainly something that KO I think stands out for being a romance story that has a male main character, which is it's a very weird thing to have, like, oh, this was what makes it unique, but it kind of does make it unique. Other than that, it's a romance story between the Beast, or Joel. He's seen as this really terrifying, massive main character who's really brutal, but he's actually not really a thug. He's just introverted and can't really make friends that easily. And he falls in love with Emma, I think her name is. It's like a pink-haired girl. Yeah. What is her name? 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 Please, 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 please tell me your name. Emma. It is Emma. And it's mainly the romance story between these two as she's trying to get to know this dude who a lot of people have misjudged. It's super cute. It's super nice. And I think it's a really good read. And it's not even like, oh, it's a main character. It's a male main character is going to be good. I just think it's a good read despite that fact. And I've been enjoying it a lot. I'm actually really looking forward to seeing where this series goes. That's the cousin. Unimportant. Yeah, it's a good series. I think you should enjoy it if you're into romance, or even if you, I think it's a good romance story if you've kind of dismissed most romance stories as being more female oriented or more female, yeah, or more just female oriented or like female targeted kind of thing. So I think you'll enjoy it. Moving on to our next series, Shogun is really cool. It's a really cool series. And I think the art plays such a cool role in this. So it's the idea of killjoys versus the antidepressants, right? That's their name. I call them the antidepressors, but that's wrong, right? Oh, they are the antidepressors. So it's killjoys, these demons that take forms of sorrow, tragedy, creatures birthed from sorrow, tragedy, misfortune. And then the antidepressors, the only humans that are able to kill the killjoys. And we follow our main character who wants to be an antidepressor because he wants to make that cash. It feels very anime, but I mean that in the best way possible. It's really cool. It's really good too. I'm really enjoying it. The art finds an interesting balance of anime, but also like, why'd you do that? Of like anime, but not grunge, but also like, you know, it's sketch, I think. Sketch is probably the right word to say. I'm not a good, I don't know art terms, but it feels just very sketchy, but also very anime. I don't know how to describe it, but it's really intriguing. And our main character is also a really cool person who's, is this a gun? All right, yeah, this is a gun. I can't show that on YouTube. Oh, the chin shine. It's fun. It's cute. It's not cute. I'm calling too many things cute. It's fun. It's energetic. It's action oriented. There's a lot in it that'll be fun for you to read if you're into anime and you want something new. As Shogun is here, and I think it's something I'm gonna be very much enjoying. Moving on, we got two more that are fine. They're fine. The Heavenly Demon Descendant mainly follows a dude who is a descendant from Shionma, the mythological Korean demon. Is that episode 2? Come on, chop chop. Yeah, Shionma, this mythological Korean demon. Honestly, I think that's it. I can't remember a lot about the series because I just wasn't. There's nothing that grabbed me about this series other than he's Shionma. He's here. Maybe that's just me. I know a lot of the webtoons, these last two webtoon series, just didn't grab me as much as the other ones. Same thing with SuperCake, which I do not believe has a title card. I'm just not into sci-fi. I know it's not primarily sci-fi. It mainly takes place in a school. It feels very Saturday morning cartoon. Sci-fi, you know, there's this chosen one. He's gonna receive great power because of the SuperCake. It's just, it feels like action for action's sake, which is not really something I'm into all that much anyways. And also, it's a sci-fi story. If you like sci-fi, this is here for you. But sci-fi is just not for me. But it's here. There's nothing wrong with it. I just wasn't super grabbed by it, if that makes sense. But those are actually all the Webtoon series that came out in the month of April. Overall, that was Soulmates. Soulmates is there. There's Naughty Deity. Overall, I think it was a really good month. It was a really good month. I can throw so the percent of genres and the percent of series I'm still reading. No Daily Pass series came out this month, which is wild because a lot of Daily Pass series have been coming out these past couple months. So having nothing come out is really interesting. But here's the graphs if you want that. But overall, I think April was a pretty good month. I know I was kind of mixed on a lot of series, but overall, I was mixed on less series than I would be in like March and February and January. I think there was a lot less of a problem in a lot of these series, and I just think this month stood out in a good way. So if any of these series stuck out to you, hey, go check them out, go read them. And even the ones that I wasn't personally interested in, I'm sure you might be the audience for them. So make sure you go check them out over on Webtoon today. And hey, if you enjoy this kind of style, please let me know. It'll be a lot freer, it'll be a lot looser, but I think it's just a good way of talking about these series that I frankly cannot really get too in depth in like 1 or 2 sentences. But I think they deserve their chance to have the spotlight. And if you enjoy it enough and want me to talk about the previous months, let me know about that as well, because the previous months had some really cool series that I would really love to talk about. But if not, hey, I'm fine with just doing it from this month on. Because May has had some really cool series that I also cannot wait to talk about. So if you like it, let me know in the comments down below. And hey, I'll see you later.